Hey guys, welcome to my video on the slope formula, chapter 4, section 4. So today's essential question is, how do we calculate the slope of a linear function? Remember that a linear function can be shown to you as, as a graph of a linear function, as a table, okay, and also as an equation, but I don't have an equation right now. Oh, right there, as an equation. Okay, so first let me show you that in order for us to calculate the slope of a linear function, you need what you call the slope formula. We have been figuring out the slope formula for a while now, from 4-3. It's no different, okay? It's no different. This is just giving you a better guide than what you had before. So the slope formula is technically coming from the change in your y values, all right? And when you say change, you tend to take the difference over the change in your x values, okay? So this is more notably known as the rate of change formula, right? So we're not doing anything different. So when we're given 2 points, I want you to start labeling them, all right? Label out your y's and label out your x's. So this is your x1, and this will be your x2. And then this will be your y1, and this will be your y sub 2. All right, so it's easier for you to use the formula. So m, which stands for slope, all right, is calculated as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to use this formula right over here. Okay, so y first. So I want y sub 2, which is the value is 3, and I want to subtract y sub 1, which is the value of it is a negative. Now be careful, because when you're subtracting a negative, make sure you have 2 negatives there. Okay? So I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to figure it out later on. Now I'm going to figure out my change of x. All right, so I want x sub 2, which is 4, and I want to subtract a negative 2. So when you subtract a negative 2, you should see 2 negatives there. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out 3 minus minus 1 is the same thing as 3 plus 1. And 3 plus 1 is the same thing as 4. All right, so now I figured out my change in y. Now I'm going to figure out my change in x. 4 minus minus 2 is the same thing as 4 plus 2, and 4 plus 2 is 6. All right, then I'm going to divide or reduce 4 over 6, which reduces into 2 over 3. So 2 over 3 is your slope. So m is equal to 2 over 3, or we say your slope is equal to 2 over 3. Okay, so that's beginners, all right? Now we're going to use and constantly use this in order for us to find the slope of linear functions, okay? Let's look at a graph. All right, so earlier in 4-3, we were talking about rise over run, which is totally fine, all right? However, sometimes the run could be a little deceiving because sometimes the intervals are not always the same. So what do I mean by that? Sometimes on the x-axis, the graphs are going by 5s, and sometimes on the y-axis the graphs could go by 10s. So in that case, you will get confused as to how much it really rises by and how much it really runs by. So it's best to go with the 2 points you see here, okay? So if you have a graph, pick 2 points. Right now it's conveniently picked for you that they picked out a -2, -1, and then they also picked out a 2, 2. And at this point, you would want to label your x's and then label out your y's. All right. Okay, so now we're going to figure out our change in y and divide it by our change in x. Okay, so the change in y is always to subtract y sub 2 minus y sub 1. And your change in x is to subtract x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Then we want to divide both of those numbers. Okay, so my y sub 2 here is +2, and I'm going to subtract a y sub 1, which is -1. Notice how, again, I have 2 negatives there. All right, divided by x sub 2, which is 2, and then minus x sub 1, which is -2. By the way, it's not always double negatives. It just really depends what you're subtracting by. All right, so 2 minus minus 1 is the same thing as 2 plus 1, and 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. And then 2 minus minus 2 is the same thing as 2 plus 2, and 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So my slope, m, is equal to 3 over 4. Okay, and that's how you figure it out using 2 points from a graph. All right, thank you for watching.